Okay, is it ever too late to diagnose? Is it ever too late to discover Asperger's or seek a diagnosis? Too late? Oh, I don't know why it would ever be too late. It's never too late for you to increase your self-awareness in order to capitalize on your strengths and also work on your areas of challenge. If you know about Asperger's, that gives you an explanation, not an excuse, but an explanation why your life has taken the twists and turns that it has. So what you do with this information at the age of 20, 50, 70, that may differ, but it's still important information to have. If you are in your 20s, for example, you can use that information to plot a course through college. If you're in your 30s or 40s, you will have if you educate yourself about your disorder, you can ask for accommodations at work, or you can just quit the job that you're unhappy with and pursue a job that's more appropriate for you and your disorder. Also in your 30s and 40s, you may want to do a life review. In other words, you will try to come to an understanding why certain careers and relationships have or have not been successful. Does that make sense? And then also, if you know that you have Asperger's or high functioning autism, you can improve on the relationships that you have, or get out of those relationships that aren't working and pursue better matches. So, and even as someone in their 60s or 70s, it's still good information to have, because you can customize your environment to be more comfortable, and you can continue to work on your capitalize on your strengths, which you will have many, and also work on areas of challenge. And you can also build new relationships, repair old relationships. An older adult who maybe had a rough life and burned some bridges, and then he finds out, oh, I have this thing called high functioning autism. That kind of explains my behavior, and that's good information if you want to make amends with people who have decided not to have a relationship with you. It's great to come back with them, send them an email, make a phone call, and if you want to make amends, and if you do want to repair bridges and say, you know what, I know that we didn't get along on multiple levels, but I just discovered that I have this disorder, and that may explain a large part of why we didn't get along. And now I have information that's going to help me with my attitude, behavior, way of thinking, and so on, now that I know what I'm dealing with. And we may want to try this relationship again. So in the event that you want to make amends to people that have no interest currently of having a relationship with you, being armed with the information that you have Asperger's, and coming to them with that information, in some cases makes all the difference in the world. I have a lot of adult clients who, especially adult males, who have not really had a good relationship with their children. And once they find out that they have this condition, it's a relief for the children, because you go, oh, well, my dad wasn't just an asshole. He had this disorder, and so it's a healing moment for them as well. Next question: if I know someone who I think has Asperger's, should I tell him? Well, that would depend on the relationship. If it's a co-worker, I would say probably not. If it's a spouse, definitely. My bias has always been that it's better to know than not to know. If you have Asperger's or high functioning autism and you don't know, it's going to affect you anyway. Okay? If you do know, again, you're going to be able to minimize the negative aspects of that and leverage the positive. And without the knowledge that one has Asperger's, you may end up filling in that void with other more damaging explanations. For example, I'm a failure, I'm weird, I'm a disappointment, I'm not living up to my potential. So, should you tell someone? If it's a parent-child relationship, I think so. a marriage situation, I think so. Other situations, it would depend. But it's important information for the other person to have because, as we just talked about, they're armed with information that will help them to have a better quality of life. Next question. This one is from Carol. By the way, those of you who don't know, we're doing this live. This is Mark Hutten with a live version of the online life coaching. Next question from Carol. How do I tell an adult that they may have Asperger's? Well, I would lead with, everybody on the spectrum, especially on the high end of the autism spectrum, they have a bunch of strengths, many more strengths than weaknesses. So I would lead with the strengths. Educate yourself about Asperger's before you tell this person that they may have it. So you'll be armed with some good information to share with them. But don't start out with the facts about Asperger's, like talking about the negative traits. Lead with the strengths. After you talk about strengths, tactfully point out the areas in which they may be struggling. Okay? So you've talked about the strengths, you've talked about some areas that you have witnessed where they struggle, and then you can suggest to them that there may be a name for this confusing combinations of strengths and challenges, and it may be called Asperger's. So you're not coming right out and telling them, well, you have Asperger's, I know it. You're suggesting that they have certain strengths and certain areas of challenge, and that weird combination may be Asperger's, and then it's up to them to go check it out. Okay? Now, having said that, don't be surprised if you get a negative reaction. I don't know the temperament of this person that you're wanting to suggest that they have Asperger's, but depending on his or her temperament, they may get angry with you. How come no one ever told me before? Or how come you're bringing this up now? So they may feel attacked. That's why it's good for you to tactfully point out this. That's why it's important to touch on the strengths first, and then tactfully point out the areas that they're struggling, so that they don't feel attacked. They may say, "Oh yeah, maybe I do have that. Maybe I do have Asperger's. You might be right, but maybe there's a cure for it." So they need to understand that there is no cure for it. It's a lifelong condition. It's a way of living. It's a different way of thinking, and that's okay. It doesn't need to be cured. They also may respond with denial. I don't have that. Why are you even bringing that up? Which is very typical. Or they may get depressed. They may think, "Oh, I've got this disorder. That's terrible. What am I going to do now?" Or they may have a sense of relief. I've always known there was something different about me. Maybe I do have that. And they go, so they're more open-minded, perhaps. So, and I could keep going on and on with the way people will respond. So use your good judgment when you're suggesting that somebody close to you has Asperger's. And you may want to have somebody else with you, so that it's not just you telling this person. If you have somebody else that can be with you that is on the same page with you, it lends more credibility to your statements that this person may have Asperger's. Okay, next question. I have been married to a husband with Asperger's for the last 10 years. He does work, but he doesn't do anything else at home. Doesn't help with the kids or chores. Is this fairly typical? Unfortunately, it is. I'm not saying all Asperger's husbands behave this way, but a good portion of them do to a certain extent. So a very common marital problem when you have a neurotypical wife with an autistic husband is this unfair distribution of responsibilities. And then when the wife expresses frustration or becomes upset that she's not getting any kind of help, the Asperger's husband is typically baffled. It's like, I didn't know that I was supposed to be chipping in to the level that you want me to chip in. And so tensions in the relationship develop, which makes the Asperger's symptoms worse, by the way. Okay, hope that made sense. Okay, we'll take another question here from Rhonda in Florida. Do Asperger's men have any feelings? Okay. That makes me wonder if you're in a relationship with an Asperger's man who you are perceiving to be insensitive, but that's speculation on my part. And anyway, yes, of course they have feelings, but I will go on the record as saying their emotions can be limited, and usually to anger, depression, and anxiety. They have a host of emotions, but they usually only express these emotions in the form of depression, anxiety, or anger. For example, if the man with Asperger's or high-functioning autism feels helpless, he may express that as anger. If he feels insulted, he may express that as anger. If he feels rejected, he may express that as anger. So you see what I'm saying? He has all these emotions underneath, but he only expresses it in one form. So the truth is, Asperger's men have feelings, and lots of them. Unfortunately for neurotypical partners, wives and girlfriends, a lot of these feelings are well hidden. And to make matters worse for the wife who wants her man to talk about his feelings, he just doesn't know how. He doesn't have the words. Okay? Do men with Asperger's lack empathy, or do they simply experience it differently? Well, they don't lack empathy. They have a hard time expressing their empathy. In counseling men with Asperger's over the years, I find that they have tremendous empathy for others. However, as I mentioned earlier, a lot of the sympathy that they have and feel isn't always expressed. So, do men lack empathy? No. Do they often fail to express it? Yeah, we'll say. At least a lot of them do.